Hello.
There you go.
There we go. We're live.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully this picks both of our voices up and records it.
It looks like it's working now.
Okay. All right. Well, Wilma, welcome to the very first episode of Casual Disasters. Today I have this local acting improv extraordinaire pun-off slayer. Oh, I also put in here zine slanging.
I do that.
Yeah. So Wilma and I are here at the public library recording above the Spokane Falls right now with an epic view. And yeah, it's really exciting. Wilma actually got me into the comedy scene, or coming to comedy, hopefully to eventually do comedy, but I think that I've turned a new leaf and don't really want to do it. But I really like doing this podcast idea because I'm more behind the scenes than being up, that I talked about last week, out and present in front of other people. So I have Wilma here to discuss, anything really that comes up for her. But some of the things that we have in common, and we were talking about last night, I love that we sit around a fire and can discuss all these deep topics. And being that you kind of transplanted into Spokane, I think you have a really, cool view of not growing up here, but coming in and being friends with a whole group of people that grew up here. And so, yeah, discussing our common things like Catholicism, both going to Gonzaga, and you staying in Spokane and choosing this city.
Well, yeah. 2 times. Because there was the Gonzaga time that I came here, and then the more recent time that I came here.
Oh, yeah, because you moved to Minneapolis.
Right. And then back to California for a little bit of 2020 and most of 2021.
Yeah, so tell us all about, you, who you are, kind of what brings you here to Spokane.
I think you summed it up. As far as who I am the acting improv extraordinaire, zine slanging. I'm trying to remember all of it.
Also you play bass and guitar.
I do that.
I forgot to mention music.
Yeah,
And you have new music coming out that we'll talk about at some point and promote.
Well, I did tell you there's stuff I'm working on. There's no release date or even I don't know. Well, look, I have a website that's called www.dargan.xyz. America. Take note. If there's one thing, if you really want to follow me around after this, that's probably how to do it. Anything that I would share would be shared there. There's a lot of shit. There's video games. There's comic books. Half-baked, trauma-infused ideas. Oh,
is there someone out there?
Andy just waved at me.
Also, something interesting about this room as we're recording, there's a huge window into the library where everyone can watch us recording
kind of
the podcast.
The only fucking window that doesn't have shades on it.
Yeah.
All the other windows we get to decide if they're open or closed, but this one is just full blast.
Where someone could sit front row, really, and just
honestly,
get some voyeurism in.
Imagine if this podcast, was making ad revenue, you quit your job, Andy just walked by and waved at me. That could cost us money. Valuable air time. I would have to grab him and bring him in here and
interview him right now.
Make him give us both $20, honestly, for obstructing our job, He's just lucky that this is so casual right now.
It's a casual disaster. That's the name of the podcast. Because you've come in here and recorded or he's in charge of the music studio, right? Where you can record free.
Yeah, he engineers the music studio side of this space here.
That's awesome. So, let's jump into comedy. What brought you to comedy? How did that all start? I know I mentioned improv, but
yeah, it's been most of my experience being a comedian, and that started for me when I was like 12 or 13. But it didn't start right away. Like, there was an improv team at my middle school. So I guess the first time I was aware of an improv team that I wanted to be a part of, I was in 6th grade. And weirdly, like, this friend of mine who was also in 6th grade, he got on the team and was performing, you know, short form, Who's Liney type of shows with all these other improvisers. It was like every grade was allowed to be in it at the time. And then the next year they shut off auditions and they were like, it's an 8th graders only thing. So I didn't get to do it. And then it disbanded. So in middle school, this like idea was planted. It was like, that's sweet as fuck and I really want to do it. Plus that like my best friend was in it and had like kind of gotten in on this like sneaky, like it's for 8th graders only now, but like you're still on there. It's like, oh man, that should be me. Jealousy or whatever. But didn't get to actually like join a team until high school, and was just super heavy on it ever since then. And I grew up in Southern California, where Comedy Sports Los Angeles has like a very thriving high school team network, high school league. It's called a league.
A league.
A network.
So adult.
Yeah. And that was awesome because these like professional comedians who do the same type of shows that you would do as a high schooler, playing the same games and wearing the same uniforms and stuff, like they would come out, I want to say like once every 3 months or something like that, and you would have like this day of really good workshops with like really smart people who were really cool and friendly, and that was just incredible to be around. And that was what high school improv was like for me.
So, like the Spokane transition here, like, did you get into improv like right off the jump, or when did you get into improv here in Spokane?
Well, when I came to Gonzaga, home of the dog, as you know, and I came out to the old doghouse. That was one of the only things on my mind. I was like, if I'm doing improv somewhere, then everything else will be okay. I really had like so few qualifications on what a school should be like for me. I was like, number one, it should be not home. Number two, I should be able to get on an improv team, and then whatever else happens is fine. It's all going to be something I don't really want to do, so who cares?
Was it all done through Blue Door here in Spokane?
No, I didn't do Blue Door for a couple of years. I think I might have known about it early on, but no, at first I was in the Gonzaga University Theater Sports team.
Whoa, I love this. Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. They're also doing short form shows, just like handfuls of goofy party game type of improv stuff. You're like, you know, dinging a bell and running around. It was a pretty big community. It was a very sharp contrast to what doing almost identical shows in California was like, because all of a sudden, like, your access to the stage was very policed, and it was frustrating. I don't want to sound like entitled. You know, maybe I was a little bit, but also I really don't think that like it was necessary to make it so hard for kids to just get on stage. You have to kind of go through some rungs of the ladder there. And there was like a 3-person council that was elected every year. I swear that just electing that council and like everyone giving their speeches and like everyone forming the their voter base. That was like as much, if not more, time spent in that group as like playing. And those were just some painful weeks. I mean, it was like, yeah, let's go to improv practice, but you're not going to improv practice. You're going to like a bizarre town hall debate about who is the most mature and friendly improviser who will now guide us into the future. And I threw my hat in that shit, you know.
I bet you did.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. It was what I needed. It wasn't as much of it as I needed. And like, I just knew that it wasn't the way that this had to be. And that's hard to put up with for too long, where you're like, just wishing that there was more playing and more opportunities to play. But it's like one show a month that they really vet who's going to do it. I don't even know what that word means. I just know that's what people would say in this situation.
It fits, it works.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting.
I don't want to wallow in that too much, I guess.
Well, so like what led, I mean, eventually then you got into like maybe graduated? Is that what happened from Gonzaga and then went to like Blue Door? Was that
No,
like
yeah,
post?
so Blue Door, I started about halfway through college because I had a friend who was just like, first of all, they grew up in Spokane, so like knew about the Blue Door already and had like been experienced with like their shows and stuff. Whereas I think most of the Gonzaga group, it's these kids who are just like really staying on that block of Spokane and for whatever reason are terrified or can't be bothered to like really integrate with the rest of the city. And so there's a lot of like, fuck Blue Door, we don't do shit the way they do shit. And also we don't even know how they do it because we won't go. You know, it was a circular,
so the Spokane hater.
Nobody wanted to get involved with it. And like, if you talked about how you had been there and had a great time, they'd be like, oh, you know, like, why aren't we good enough for you? Why don't you love this? Why aren't you devoted to this? And it's hilarious because like one of the best things about Gonzaga University Theater Sports is that they had some famous graduates who went viral as hell for a number of years. Baratz and Beretta, and they went to the Blue Door and they continued to be funny there. And it's like, you're going to talk about them all the time and be like, that's why we're cool. But like, you don't actually want to pursue this the way they pursued this. Anyway, yeah. So my friend Devin got on the show there at the Blue Door, and it was very small at the time. It kind of like goes through these like waves of membership. And they were at kind of a low water line. So to just say, hey, I have a friend who's funny, and I think they should come to a Wednesday practice, and we should just see if it fits. I kind of walked on there a little bit. Like, there was no audition exactly. It was just like friend of a friend style, just kind of falling in with them. And then all of a sudden I was doing like 2 shows a weekend there. And I kept doing that well past graduation. So I was at the Blue Door from like 2012 until 2016 or something like that. And those were some incredible years for sure. There was a lot of cool shit that went down there.
And then you appeared in the comedy scene. When did that happen?
Oh, yeah. As soon as I turned 21, I started doing stand-up because I really wanted to. And that's pretty much the main barrier of participation in Spokane is just the fact that it's always happening in a bar.
Oh, yeah. So true.
Yeah. And I heard stories from one person, Michael Glatzmeyer, if you're listening. Hello, Michael Glatzmeyer. We used to tell stories about going to old Uncle D's Comedy Underground as a, not of drinking age child, and like standing outside until it's time to do their set. And yeah, I never wanted to do something like that. So 21 years old, I did stand up for the first time at like Boots,
Oh, yeah.
which I think isn't even a 21 and up space. So that kind of isn't adding up to me now.
But maybe at night when they had the bar, like when the bakery was done.
It was
I
a
don't know.
later at night type of a thing. I swear it wasn't. I think it was still all ages, even though it was like a night show there.
So was it still like adult, like only attendees?
Hard to say looking back. I don't know. There could have been like one kid there or something. You never know. But
Remember? Oh, this is something interesting you'll have to share. Is when we used to do comedy night at Skipper's. Because I was thinking back to the fact that we were in the parking lot, and was there one infant in the stroller? Do you remember this
Yes.
infamous time?
yes, there was a strollerly infant in attendance. Yeah.
We had
A
some funny nights
bestrollered
at Skipper's.
We went there 2 times, right?
Yeah. You might have gone more than me, but I think I attended twice.
Sure. Did you go on the time? Yeah, you were there when it was my birthday.
Mm-hmm. That was also a really fun night with the drinking gal who was heckling everyone.
Yeah. A classic Spokane heckler moment.
Yeah, those are always
Where
so
I was
crunchy.
just like telling jokes and she's like, "How long have you lived in town?"
Yeah, like just shouting
No.
questions.
At least disrespect me. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
like,
if you're going to interrupt the show.
Let's cuss me out or
Now
something.
I have to tell you that you're being disrespectful when you're actually like being nice. You know, it's worse. It's worse.
It's like nice heckling.
Yeah. If you tell Spokane friendly hecklers to shut up, they're like, "All I did was ask you how long you've lived in town. Like, I just want to get to know you, you know."
Not the time or the place, my friend.
You don't know where you are. Yeah, this is a fish
Read
restaurant.
the room,
like,
buddy.
yeah.
We're at Skipper's with fried fish in the middle of the restaurant. So, okay, here's another thing I was thinking about, like the visibility of trans people in that community. Are there other people like that you're aware of, or how does that work with
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Spokane's limited comedian scene?
Most queer folks in general kind of stick to the queer open mic. My friend Jenny Watson is the only, well, I shouldn't make the only type statements. I'm like brain farting right now.
We did drink you drank a ton of coffee at the Satellite before this.
Yeah, I like went past the point of like gonna help me talk into you know,
like belligerent coffee.
Yeah. A little bit lightheaded.
Where your brain is like racing a million miles and your body is jolting from the coffee, like caffeine and coffee.
Well, Jenny comes to mind right away, but that's just, you know,
Yeah.
we talk and hang out and stuff. As
But
far
just
as,
like
trans folks who are kind of working
Yeah.
all the mics and like wanting to just do as much stand up as possible.
I think as a woman, and I've said this to you, made me feel so much safer in that space, seeing like trans women get up and hold that space and be visible. Something we've talked about, like just visibility of females in the comedy scene in general is, you know, not
It's
as common.
low.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, no, there are funny women who come out, but they don't come out as often because I think we feel this way when we go out too. It's like, all right, well, we're good for a couple of weeks. Like, that was fucking insane. You know, you people are so rude, or like, why is this how this room has to feel?
Mm-hmm.
And like, you're really doing people a service, like showing up and acting like this is a place where people can be silly and like not mean. And it's hard to provide that labor every time you go out, right?
Oh, yeah.
To like, yeah.
Like I feel it physically sometimes. Some of the comedians say something and it's so off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, like a stomach punch of like, I don't know if it's like anxiety, stress, awkwardness, like, so then it does, I think our entire friend group takes space from it. We'll like go and then like I'll go like take a month off and then reappear.
Yeah. I've been a little bit lighter on it lately.
Because my favorite that I tell people is our dream of doing like a triple header and getting like a tour bus and like hitting all the comedy scene in one night.
I don't know. I don't know how to pull that off anymore. So like go to the club and then go to 9 and then go to T's Lounge all on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It would take some pretty precise timing, but it could be done. You'd have to get onto the show at the comedy club very early, and then have time to like run down to 9 and sign up. I could probably,
Did you ever pull that off? I couldn't remember.
I have, I think. Oh, let me think. Well, if I did, it was a long time ago, and nights at the comedy club are so not memorable.
That's a weird space too.
Big time, yeah. No, the last time I did stand-up at the comedy club, I spent 2 minutes just untangling the mic cord and like trying to breathe as slowly as I could. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty worked up. Because the person who went up before me was like doing some really strange set about like meeting somebody and trying to like guess whether or not they have like facial hair. Like there's this really feminine presenting person, and I was like, I'm gonna say thanks, dude, but I want to make sure that that's not, And the reality is that like, dude, or like, hey man, or whatever, that's just how like everyone talks to each other. That used to sting me a lot, like when I was really close to getting on hormones myself, and now I'm on the other side of that, and I'm like, yeah, it's just like, what's up, dude? That's how everyone talks. That's how like other trans people talk to me. It's not weird.
I call everyone dude. That's like my non-binary word for everyone.
So did Bart
just
Simpson.
Dude, and I love him.
It's just a cultural thing. And like, yeah, if you think about it for too long, it's like these are words that apparently like are masculine. But that's just kind of not how people use them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that like people who have no experience with trans folks, they seem to take it super seriously too. Which can be sweet. Like when I like started going by a different name, I had people ask me sometimes like, am I allowed to say like you guys when I talk about you and a group of people? Or am I allowed to say like, man or dude or whatever? And,
I like that aspect of consent too, like approaching and, if that is something for you, people respecting that.
Yeah.
How has that process been of like taking hormones and transitioning and this kind of
sweet,
tighter community, but also, how are you feeling?
I don't know. I don't know if it's really changed my community drastically. Like I still relate to the same people that I relate to, and like my friendships haven't changed super drastically. Because I already had really dope friendships.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I feel good.
As your friend, it was amazing when you I think you individually called us or like some, I don't know, other friends.
I sent a bunch of texts out.
I definitely think you called me though, and I was like so touched that you did and that you shared your like name, and and I was happy to hear that other people in our friend group or extended friends were so welcoming and kind to you about that.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Because I just already had a good group of people around me. And that, deciding on my name, that was like a month after getting on the drugs.
How have the drugs been? How are those drugs?
Oh, it's night and day. It's fucking incredible. Yeah.
Night and day, like, just how you feel?
Like opposites. Yeah, like, I don't know. It used to be bad and now it's good. It's so subtle in a lot of ways. and also at the same time so like completely, I mean, we're talking about a massive change that's also so I mean, it's not like taking some other sort of like psychologically affecting drug where it's like, I'm on fucking drugs, you know?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's been like wildly transformative of like my perceptions and like way of operating, but in this kind of a gentle way, you know?
Do you feel like more like yourself?
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to say it. And it's not like I was never me before, you know? Yeah, it's some weedy stuff to get into because like, anytime someone takes a substance, like period, what happens to you is not like deterministic, you know? Like one person gets drunk and they just fall asleep on the stairs. Another one gets drunk and they're like throwing shit at the walls. You know what I mean? You can't act like there's a magic quality about alcohol that like causes people to act this way or that way. Just as an example, and like the same goes for being on estradiol. Like for me, I just feel clarified, you know, and like there's less gymnastics to do to like have my basic thoughts and feelings. Just like my experience with myself is less packaged. I don't have to like decrypt and re-encode my behavior. I just do what I do and I feel how I feel, and it's not complicated, you know?
You said initially it didn't feel great. Is that what you were saying?
But I mean, like my before times.
Oh, I thought you were meaning like when you started it.
No, oh my God, no. I mean, like, I felt better like the first day. I put a patch on and went to sleep and then woke up and was like, wow, okay, so like life is just good now? That's okay.
Gosh, that's amazing to hear.
I was saying at the time that it's like and it's exactly what I thought someone taking some sort of a medication for their mental health sounded like. Like, oh, you just take a drug and now like you're happier? That's okay.
So like how I felt getting on ADHD meds for the first time?
Yeah, and it's a lot like that. It's not so much like a well, and I don't think that this is how it is for anyone. This is how a lot of trans people feels. Like this is a mental health, this is a self-care type of a thing. It's not like shallow you know, trying to present yourself in a way that like it's not about performing, but it is. But it's not about portraying something, you know, or like words.
Yeah.
Picking them out, choosing them, putting them in order. You know what I mean?
That's so hard for my brain. I get lost in my words so often every day.
Yeah. Just about my mental state, first and foremost. And everything that's changing about my body is like, hell yeah, that's great. But, you know, I already looked like that. I already was that person. It's just like not a secret anymore. And it's not something that I have to like wonder every day if that's real. Like, and that's the thing that I think simplifies my daily life, is that I don't have to wonder, you know, if this is the kind of person that I am.
That alone is super powerful.
Yeah.
Like, so worth it. Now, wait a minute. Did they require, like, as an adult, so back in the day when I was a therapist to underage students, they had to go through some kind of, like, counseling to take hormones or hormone blockers. Is that what happens as an adult? Like,
I don't know. I mean, what I did was, like, first went through this, like, service that you can pay for. It's like a private healthcare situation. I was telling people a lot at the time that it felt like medical marijuana a little bit, where you kind of just pay a fee to be seen by a doctor and no insurance whatsoever. It's just like, pay these fees. You're a member of our group now, and that means your labs are paid for and your drugs are paid for and your visits are paid for. Just like, pay the subscription. And it only worked in certain states. It's called Plume.
oh yeah.
Plume. And so I signed up for that. I was seen, like, at the end of the month that I signed up, a little telehealth visit on my phone. And yeah, it was pretty much just like, yeah, so you're trans? I was like, yeah. And a little bit of intake questioning. That's just like, well, what do you see for yourself? What do you wish to be taking or not taking or whatever? And then after that, they're just like, cool, got you a year's supply. Go ahead and pick it up. Should be ready tomorrow. So, like, getting in with all that was very fast. I just had to have $90, so, like, get a subscription to this thing. But then I decided that it would be cool to not be paying that monthly fee, because, like, my finances were about to get super tight. And I was like, I have state insurance. I feel like I could probably be seeing somebody locally and have all my shit paid for.
Yeah.
And so I figured that out, got seen by a doctor. More people waving at us. Like, do they not see us working?
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, how dare you waste this money that we don't get for advertising yet. For my investors.
Blah, blah, blah. Where the hell was I? Yeah, so I went to Chaz. Went to the Chaz clinic. And I just said, like, I'm already on estradiol and it kicks ass, so would you like to help me keep being on it? Which I think is a different situation than just walking in and being like, hello, primary care provider who may or may not have ever met a trans person in their life. I would like to do this. I was like, I'm already doing it.
Yeah.
It's already good.
It's
I can
live.
already tell you, like, the difference and why I should continue doing it. So yeah, he was very cooperative, and, like, my nurse, like, before I saw the doctor, was like, listen, Eric does not know about this kind of thing. If you don't want to see him, let me know, because there's other doctors,
That's awesome.
And I was like, I don't know. As long as he gets me my fucking drugs, like, it's whatever. And so I do find myself, like, educating him a lot in our visits. And when he's asking me about things, it's like, yeah, I'll tell you my whole life story about why I feel like this, and, like, the things that have happened to me that, like, showed that and have validated it through the years. And I like telling those stories, so it's all good.
And you're probably, I don't know if you want to be educating him, but maybe it'll be this kind of, like, paying it forward to others. Now he'll be more, aware when he has other patients come in.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I don't mind telling those stories. I kind of, like, showed up to those visits, like, hoping that all of my lore could come out just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's fine. He's not, he just doesn't know a lot. He's not, like, mean or stupid, he just, like, hasn't had the kinds of conversations that he has with me before. So now he has.
And there we go. And hopefully then he moves forward with that information. And it sounds like he's open to learning, like, not doubling down on being like some medical professional. I have nothing else to learn. I'm just the expert of everything, which can tend to happen in the medical model, that we just can't humble ourselves, I guess, like to hear like other people's experiences.
Oh, yeah.
Not something that we're really aware of.
Yeah, just like what the research says is going to trump like what people are bringing to you every time. And then the research is based on the people who are coming to you and who you will listen to begin with. So like, you know, that's a real like blind leading the blind, snake eating its tail, whatever you want to call it. Like,
yeah. So I was wondering, like, I don't know if this is too personal, but just how everyone around you, like family-wise, is responding to you staying in Spokane, transitioning, all of that. Because you come from California. Like, kind of what keeps you in Spokane?
Oh, yeah, I guess I don't know. Well, I came here this time because I wanted space to be myself. And probably was plenty of ways to do that in California as well. But I don't know. Everyone I was thinking about and talking to lived up here when I was living in California in 2021. And I just felt this very strong urge to like be with people who know me like in that way, who have like spent a handful of years like being around me and watching me change. So I decided to come up here and be surrounded by those folks as I like figured out my path. And
so community in Spokane has like kept you.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome and really important. I think as people are transitioning and like that seems like it would be really important to have people kind of wrapping around you through that journey.
Oh yeah, and like definitely people who've like known me before and after and who are like keeping up with it. That's really good for my peace of mind.
Yeah.
And I wanted my like biological family to be those people, but they like super don't want to. I mean, my sisters get it, but also like I never see them. They live in their own places, you know?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I remember a long time ago working with Odyssey Youth Center, and Jude, who used to run it, introduced me to like all these kind of factors of what protect somebody transitioning or being gay or lesbian or a part of the LGBTQ community is family response or the people around you like caring for you. So whenever I meet with parents or families, I'm like, you're the number one safety factor. I think all these families think, oh, you're walking on the street, someone's going to just jump you because you're trans, or these very fear-based, what they think are
totally.
protecting others.
Like, I am going to demean you for your identity now so that no one does it when you go outside.
Yeah.
I will make you feel ashamed of this, like as a service.
And come to find out, and you and I just talked about this before we got here, people have been really kind and like better or more responsive in a nice way than maybe.
So far so good. Yeah, I don't know. And I also haven't necessarily like, God, I've been like leaning past the mic. I have no idea what's being picked up at all.
I know, I wondered that too. Like, how much can I move around it or be in front or behind it?
I have zero mic technique in this interview. So.
I don't either. We're just learning as we go. Because that's like what I think is cool about the podcast room, or just this experience doing this. Is what is the Spokane Library's slogan again? Like a community of learning. So we're engaged in the community of learning right now.
Yeah, it means people get to freaking wave at me
through a window.
Yeah.
Be voyeurs for free. But yeah, so maybe we wrap up here. And what are some, I don't know, you said something really hilarious yesterday about, like, was it this woman who wants to stay in Spokane, or the reason she stays? Or no, it was like about the energy being off here. Like she wanted to explain to you, like,
Oh yeah.
I love that tidbit.
There's lots of like Spokane is cursed, or like this place is like a simulation or a movie set type of like ideas that are out there, because everyone feels like it's just weird.
Yeah.
No one can totally place it. But when I was working at a farmer's market for a while, I had this regular who would come up to me and just like talk about weird shit. And one time she was like, underneath Spokane, there's just huge chunks of quartz everywhere. The whole city is built on this bed of quartz. And if you go down to the riverbed, you can see just chunks of quartz everywhere. And I've never verified the chunks. I never verified the chunks myself.
Start digging.
I just believed her. I was like, yeah, there's got to be those chunks.
Did she explain? And I'm still curious
Down
about
on
this.
the
Like, what? I don't know enough about minerals. Or yeah, we talked
Me
about.
neither.
We
Yeah,
both
I
love
don't know,
minerals.
but quartz is cool. You look
It
at
is
it,
cool.
Like, it's a sweet rock. It seems like in massive quantities it causes Spokane. And I just believe that.
I really want to talk to a geologist about this. And I want them to explain. We should research this if somebody's listening and is a geologist.
Send us a letter. Ooh, my chair went down. Send us a little letter to our P.O. box here at the station and let us know the effects of quartz on a large population.
Because we think that's what's happening
It is
here.
the foremost theory.
Also, another,
play.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier when we were talking about Ted Lasso, I can't get that out of my brain, and like comparing it to Spokane, like, and Spokane nice, because I brought that up on my intro episode. Like,
Have you ever heard Minnesota nice? Just as an aside.
yeah.
Yeah. Same thing. But anyway.
But okay, can I ask about Minnesota nice?
Yeah.
Aren't they actually nice? Like, or something, or like actually kind?
I don't know.
I don't know.
It doesn't feel that different. I mean, just whatever. Maybe it manifests a little bit differently, but it's that like, I'll always say howdy neighbor. I always will, even though I think that you deserve to go to hell. I'll never say it to your face, buddy. Don't worry,
I'll just think it and wish it upon you.
Yeah. And here and in Minnesota, I think you see a lot of that, like, real neighborly displays that just don't actually, like, amount to being invested in your neighbor's well-being,
Yeah.
An example being maybe, because I was there in 2020, the old George Floyd uprising, and was there for one of the protests, gatherings, rallies, where the city council came out with these like massive signs that they had like hand painted, and it was a big old photo op thing. They're like, we are going to adopt these 5 principles forever. And they all stood on this little stage, and each member of the city council was holding a corner of these big old flags that are like, community-based policing is the future, or whatever. And it felt so good,
Yeah.
They doubled back on all that shit within like 2 weeks. Like, it immediately was like, oh yeah, really hard to bring this stuff up. Really, it's a sensitive conversation. So, I mean, how do you start something like that? I think maybe in the next 3 months, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about talking about it in 3 months, and like, it just kind of got endlessly put off. I don't know where all that ended up. I have a feeling that Minnesota did not overhaul their police department system. I have a sneaking suspicion
Yes,
that it did not come to pass.
Feeling about that.
Yeah,
not
that's
changing.
like that kind of niceness, I'll come out to your event. I'll show this like massive outward visual, tangible, physical sign of support, But like you were never gonna fucking follow through on that,
These are all trigger words for me.
And the way that like not doing what you said you were gonna do, it has so many rationalizations that are like, now you need to accept what's hard about this for me, or else you're not being nice to me. You know, like, you have to support these people because they're trying their best. You know.
I think sorry. No, I was just going to say, I think that's a lot of people's feeling about so many topics. Like, let's talk about me being a victim in this. And it's like, we're not talking about you right now.
Yeah.
We're talking about policing. Yeah. You were about to say something, though.
Yeah. I was. You're right.
Yeah, you were. Was it something about, I don't know, that act of, I don't know, the people victimizing themselves?
Oh, right. I remember now. Well, all of that in hindsight just felt like a way of soothing unrest and saying, like, everyone can stop being in the streets now, okay? Because we're doing big things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When, like, yeah, that's the only thing that made anything happen. That's the only reason why the country and the world was talking about that at the time, was because no one was going to wait for the nice people who are in the nice position to do the nice thing, because it just keeps never happening, you know?
Yeah.
It's not the first time that people have done that. Like, this is the last time. I've just had it about up to here. I'm going to go talk to the mayor, you know? No, like that, we're here and it's boiled over to this point because every time someone has, like, shown that big support for the people or whatever, it just doesn't pan out. Like, so, and I think it worked a little bit, you know. I mean, things did not stop after that particular rally.
Yeah. Nationally, too. It just continued and continued. Spokane has had its own kind of reforming our ombudsman department, overseeing the police, and just how that has shifted, like, post George Floyd, but all these things are still occurring nationally. People being harmed wrongfully by policing. Actually, you remember when I just did that motivational interviewing training?
Yeah, you were talking about motivational interviewing.
Yes, and kind of the whole,
like a cult. So go on, yes.
Yes, but the premise, or like a big piece of it, was how they're using MI with the police here in Spokane, and maybe nationally, I'm not sure, to build these skills. And I thought that was so interesting. Like, they're using therapeutic interventions now as police to kind of learn this new language on how to discuss. And I think, or I hope, that there's, like, this huge, I don't know, growth with it, because they're on the front lines too, but I'm like, there's also just so much more education that policing needs.
Well, and what's going to work faster, like turning the police into therapists, or just putting some therapists in there? You know what I mean? Like, I don't.
Oh yeah.
Giving people access to, like, I
100%.
I like the idea in a way, but also it feels like that same thing of, like, look, we're teaching the police how to give better hugs. All right, we're doing that. It's like, we don't want them to be there. Like, they're with the bulletproof armor and, like, all the clips strapped to them. That's not who needs to show up. I don't care how, like, soft their voice is now. You know, like.
Yeah, like, why aren't now? Actually, when I call 911 here, and it's like a student in crisis, they send a therapist out instead of having the police come, because that's who I have to call when I need someone to transport a student. And they don't have transportation, for instance, like their family doesn't have a car, or, you know, various reasons. And I was really happy to see that has occurred. Like, when I call 911, it isn't like the police coming in, it's a therapist coming in.
Yeah, I think that was one of the takeaways of that whole time in Minnesota, was like, you're using the wrong tools for the job, just period. Like, this force that we employ in these situations, it does not have its roots in the right place. This is a descendant of the slave patrols, and et cetera, like, don't reform it, just, like, start over again, because this shit is not it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That sounds more encouraging to me, that like someone who needs therapy gets an emergency therapist, instead of like, yeah.
yeah, like you're saying that nothing, or I can't think of a more triggering thing when a kid that I'm working with is in crisis and someone's coming strapped with guns.
It escalates situations, just like, period, if that's who shows up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a shame because if someone responds, if someone in that vulnerable position, like, takes it seriously, like how threatening it is that this person just showed up, like, now they're acting outrageous and like, blah, blah, blah.
Well,
Some examples.
so let's wrap up here, even though I said that a while ago. I was like, this is so me on a phone call being like, oh, we're done here and let's talk for another hour.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like us last night on the phone for 2 hours. I'm not even sure how long we've been recording. What's like maybe some words of advice to the Spokane community? Or, I don't know. Are there
Buy
final
some
thoughts?
Bitcoin.
Final thoughts to the
Get
Spokane
in on
community.
the NFT craze already, because folks, it's free money. You get these digital chimpanzees going, the next thing you know,
Who knows?
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. What'll happen? That's something I'm not informed on. I do not.
Oh, me neither. No,
I was like, Bitcoin. Someone else is going to have to talk
I don't
about
know
that.
if I have any advice for the people of Spokane.
Yeah. Well, I just want to.
Besides, I technically live in the Spokane Valley, so
Oh
I
my
really
God.
don't. I'm not.
How
part
dare
of this.
I
Yeah.
put someone in the podcast from the Valley in the Spokane
I'm sorry.
City
Yeah,
limits.
this is a letdown. At the end of all of this talking, I don't even actually live in Spokane.
I live in the
Spokane
Valley of Spokane. Oh.
We have our own budget. We have our own silly newspaper.
You have your own city council and
Mhm.
mayor?
Pretty sure.
Yeah,
I don't
what's
know.
happening with the politics of
Yeah.
the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Wilma, I just want to thank you for being my first guest on Casual Disasters and being vulnerable, speaking out on like trans, issues or vulnerabilities about that transition family
Yeah.
comedy scene, and just being the shit as a friend, and feel really lucky to be your friend and how much you've influenced and impacted me. Just watching your vulnerability and rawness around being yourself in that transition and being open to discuss it, even aside from this podcast, just as a friend. It feels really, just special to be connected to you in that way.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well,
And thank you for being someone I can like talk to about all that kind of stuff. And they're few and far between. So I've always valued the space that you create in your backyard for a little bit of just talking about how we actually feel.
I love that. Yeah, that is a special space. I can't wait till we can go back to doing outside fires and it's not freezing and shitty out in Spokane since it's so dark here in the winter. Well, that is it, and thank you for listening. Oh, shit. Look at me on the wrong map.